Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how I have replaced an AC compressor on this BMW. This is a 2008 BMW 328xi Coupe. I actually looked for a lot of different tutorials, YouTube videos on how to basically replace the AC compressor, since I've never done it before, and I really didn't find any in detail, so I put it upon myself to actually make the video, since I'm replacing the AC compressor, and do make a good one to where I'm actually showing you step by step on how I did it. That way you'll save me some time and show you any kind of trouble that I got into, issues replacing it, and the tools that I've used. If you guys have any questions or any comments, just feel free to leave them below. And also don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the like button if you like this video, if you found it useful. I will be showing you how to remove the AC compressor. Again, this will be my first time doing this. The reason why I'm replacing it is because my AC stopped working, and I thought maybe it would be something simple as leaking Freon or adding some Freon to it to make it work again, and I thought maybe it was something electrical. And it turned out, when I was kind of digging around, is that I found this piece that came off of the AC clutch on the AC pulley. This is part of the pulley that's in the front, and this just broke off and was sitting on the belly pan underneath the car. And once I found this, I matched it up to the same brand AC compressor that I found online to kind of match the images, make sure this actually came from the AC compressor, and it did. So I know that that's the issue. Another thing that was kind of strange is that the AC clutch should only engage when the AC is on. In my case, it was engaged the whole time, whether the AC was on or off. I'm pretty sure this is the reason, so I actually got a new AC compressor, and the AC compressor was maybe about $500 from AutoZone. It comes with a 2-year warranty. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll remove the snorkel, just so we can get better access to the separating belt, which we'll need to remove. And also our AC clutch is right here in this area underneath. I have already taken the car to a mechanic close by to have all the Freon removed from the car, because I've heard it's not safe to just kind of discard it in the environment. It can be very dangerous in case you get it in your eyes. It can make you blind. So it's always safe to just take the car to mechanic, have them professionally remove the Freon from your system. So I have these T30 screws removed from the snorkel here, and I'm just gonna pop this out. It's still hot. So the next thing we'll need to do is remove the fan, but before we do that, we need to flush the coolant. So now we'll remove these 8mm bolts all along the bumper right here. You see the small screws just to remove this splash guard here. And this is what it looks like now without it. And see, we'll have a better access to the AC compressor. So the AC compressor is right here. So we're just trying to clear some of these things out of the way so we can get better access to it. I'm going to actually loosen this coolant reservoir cap just to release any pressure. And also be careful when you're doing this, make sure the car is cold. It's been sitting for about 24 hours. A lot of pressure can be built up here, and a lot of the coolant can squirt out and maybe get in your skin or in your eyes, and it can blind you. So be very careful. And again, I'm not a mechanic by any means. This is something actually that I'm trying to attempt myself. This is a hobby for me. What we're going to do, we're going to go on the bottom of the car. This is the drain plug right here for the coolant. This drain plug is plastic. You can strip it, and then you probably may not be able to remove it even with a big screwdriver. I tried using some other things, trying to improvise, and it looks like I stripped it a little bit, just because I couldn't get the car high enough, because this hydraulic jack can only go up so far. even with these ramps, so I had to work with what I had. And the screwdriver that I got was actually a little too long, so, and what I did, I just kind of pushed the screwdriver inside, pushed it to give me more leverage, and loosen this here. And I'm going to use this thing just to undo it. Now that we've kind of broken it loose, I'm going to turn it slowly. Also make sure it doesn't fall in your eyes or on your skin. I'm actually going to get a new drain plug because this one's too stripped. I may go and find it at the BMW dealership. It won't be more than 10 bucks, I think. Get some gloves first. I should have probably gotten some latex gloves since those are disposable. I feel like something just went into my mouth. Oh my god. Here we go. Okay, so we'll come back here to the back of the car and we're going to disconnect a negative terminal on the battery because we'll be removing some of the electrical components like the fan, the AC, also the electrical wire. And for that we'll use a 10mm socket. You have to remove the bolt at all, just loosen it. Just pull this out. Like so. Now start working on removing the fan so that we have better access to the AC compressor, and also removing the belt as well will be a little easier. So first thing we'll do is remove this little connector here for the fan. And when you're doing this, make sure to disconnect the battery. All these two clips here, make sure you use like a prying tool, a screwdriver, to kind of get them both pressed inwards. So I've just now removed this connector here for the fan. And what I did, I used a screwdriver to pry the tab on the other side right here to push it inwards. And then with this hand, I push this inwards and then pull it out slowly. At the same time, I also pulled on this wire and it came right out. So it was pretty easy to remove. We're going to disconnect this hose here because it actually goes all the way around here. So when we pull on the fan, we'll have a little more clearance here. You can just take something like a small to kind of put it here and just pull on this clip here by just kind of twisting it back and forth. Straight out and it comes off. Pass it along this side so we have more room. So the next thing we'll do is there's a T20 screw right here, and we'll use a T20 bit on a 1/4-inch ratchet, which actually makes it easier to kind of get in here. So the next thing we'll do, we'll come underneath the car. On the driver's side, you'll see here, we'll just take a T20 and just remove this to unhook it from the fan. Do it by hand. Let's connect this cable here. This connector here that I've already disconnected. What you want to do is you want to just pry this a little bit this way, this tab, slowly with a flathead screwdriver, and at the same time pull this out, but be very gentle not to break this tab. There was actually one more T20 screw which went here. So let's now see if we have all of the points on the radiator so we can now pull it out. Okay, so now the fan is out. So when you're pulling out the fan, there's one clip here, almost like a tab, plastic tab that I broke off here. So this plastic thing right here that I broke off, unfortunately, but I'll try to like a JB weld it and see if that helps. Basically, this is a clip right here. It goes like this, and when you're pulling the fan out, it's supposed to like grab this top part, just push it back a little bit and slide the fan out. That's one thing I want to mention, and just make sure you don't break it because this is plastic, and over time with age this can become very brittle. And another thing that I forgot to mention is that there's actually one cable or wire that's attached to this fan, and it's very easy to replace. And how you remove it, you actually just kind of turn it this way and pull it out. And the next thing will be to remove the belt. So here's where the AC compressor is, and see how it's broken off in the middle. That's actually what made the AC stopped working. Luckily I found a piece that broke off. I was able to quickly figure out why my AC wasn't working. This is the new compressor. This is what the clutch is supposed to look like. So now we'll remove the separating belt. Before you do this, you have to remember how the belt goes on, because it has to be installed a certain way, and I'm sure there are some diagrams online you can find. The belt goes this way, around this thing right here, comes underneath, that goes over this one right here, over this pulley, goes under the crankshaft, then goes over here, around this pulley, tensioner pulley, goes to the AC compressor, then comes around over the top of the alternator. To remove this belt, we need to get a T60 torque on a half-inch ratchet, and then move it clockwise until it releases the tension on this pulley and the belt becomes loose. Then we can just slowly remove the belt. Okay, so the belt is off. Here we go. Oh, it looks a little cracked. It's a good time to replace it. These hoses here, these have like a clip here. See this little tab? See the groove pads, tabs? Just press them in and pull them out straight. Same with this one here. So I removed one of these 6mm Allen bolts, which goes right here. Then now we'll do the other one, which is right above this one. I've also disconnected this connector here underneath the coolant reservoir, because I'm planning on actually removing this coolant altogether from this side to give me more room to work with. So there's a tab underneath this clip here. You just press it on the bottom and pull it out from here. And then the next thing, if you can, this one's all being a little stubborn, you can actually pull this clip up like I have here, and then remove this hose, and then you should be able to remove this reservoir altogether. Okay, so we have removed the reservoir. This is the connector right here. It takes a little bit of wrestling with it, but it came out pretty easily. Okay, so now we have better access to these lines, and even though I've removed those bolt screws they go in here, the 6mm Allen, I still can't remove these lines. I have to be very gentle just so I don't break them, because it looks like they're made out of aluminum, and I don't want to kink them or anything like that. Okay, as you can see, this line is out. It was pretty easy. All it actually was just kind of yanking on it, and then once I saw a little gap here between this connector here and here, I used like a pry bar. You can use a screwdriver. Just came in between, just kind of pried a little bit around, and it came out pretty easily. And this is the bolt we just got now unloosened. So basically I took a E14 ratcheting wrench and just put it here and unloosened it. Now it's loose. We can just kind of undo the bolt with our fingers. Then we'll do the same thing on this side, and the third one, which is on the bottom, we have to remove some stuff underneath to get to it. Then we can just pull the AC compressor out and then install a new one. So we have also removed the bolt, which is right here. Remove that bolt, and just using a E14 socket this time with a 3/8 ratchet, and it was pretty easy to remove, pretty easy to get to, especially now that we have the coolant reservoir off. And now the third bolt on the bottom, very hidden on this side over here. This is the AC compressor. It's basically on this side over here. So as you can see, this clip right here that's on this hose, we're going to remove that hose, and I'm doing this just so I can get better access to that last bolt that we need to remove, so we can take the compressor out. And we also need to remove the thermostat housing, which this hose goes to. I'm just going to pull the hose straight out, and I have a bucket down here just to catch any coolant that's left in there. And when you're pulling this hose, after you release this clip, don't hold on to here, because you may actually remove the hose from this plastic part here. And what I did to kind of make it easier, I took like a screwdriver or a little prying tool, and just went underneath the car and just kind of pried it, slowly moved it, kind of get it loose. So this hose is located on the other side of the thermostat. Thermostat is this thing right here. This is the housing for the thermostat. And we're gonna actually go on the behind the thermostat on the other side and remove the hose. I think that one actually has like a clamp which you can actually unscrew up and then pull the hose out. And after we do that, if you look inside here, you'll see the 10mm bolts that hold the thermostat in place. And then we can have much better access to the bolt that's holding the AC compressor in place. I got the third bolt loose, and now let me tell you how I did it. As I told you before, there are 2 bolts holding this thermostat in place. So I removed the first one closest to the bumper. I wouldn't recommend removing the other one because if you do, it'll be really hard to get it on. What I did actually, I removed this one and got that one over there loose. Once I got that one over there loose on the other side, and I just moved this thermostat housing to the side like this, give me more clearance for that bolt over here. It's right here, and you really can't use a socket there, it's so tight. So I used a E14 ratcheting wrench, and I got it on there somehow, and I slowly started loosening it. And I think I got the AC compressor loose now. And what I'll do, I'll try to wiggle it out there and see if I can remove it. This tool is very helpful. I believe this one is only available on Amazon, and if I have a chance, I'll include a link below, and really works wonders, especially in this case, because I think this is also useful if you want to replace a starter on your car. It's the same wrench, E14, and you have to use a wrench for the starter. The socket won't fit, it's very tight. Actually, what I decided to do is remove the hose from the thermostat from this side. We already removed one on the front with a clip. Actually, I was able to come from here, from this side, and use a 6mm socket on an extension of a 1/4" ratchet. I was able to kind of get it in here and loosen it. Once I loosened it, make sure you have a catch bucket below, and then you can come up here and just pull the hose out. What I'll do next is I'll remove that other screw for the hose that thermostat in place. Why I hesitated removing the other bolt for the thermostat was because I was worried that I may not be able to get it back in there, but once I remove the thermostat, I'll be able to remove the compressor, and then I'll be able to have a much better access to the hoses for the thermostat and also the thermostat itself once the compressor is out of the way. And I already have the other nut loosened. Once I'm ready to put everything back in there, I'll get a 10mm ratcheting wrench, which will be much easier to get those 2 bolts on the thermostat. Let me see if I can remove the thermostat, and then we'll try to remove the compressor. Even with the thermostat loose, when I removed those 2 bolts, I still couldn't remove the AC compressor. So what I'm doing, I'm actually going to remove the thermostat completely, just to give me more room to be able to remove the compressor. What I just did just a moment ago is that there's a hose right here that also connects to the thermostat, another hose. It's actually right next to the first one we removed, this one. Now I just removed the clip from this one right here, and I'm just going to pull it out. I'll also disconnect this electrical connection to the thermostat. There's a tab on this connector. You pry it open a little bit and you pull this out. And once you remove this, then we can just take the whole thermostat out. We should be able to have more room to remove this compressor, and hopefully we'll be able to remove it. Okay, as you see, I have disconnected this connector here for the thermostat. Here it is right here. I've also was able to wiggle the AC a little bit so to where I can remove the bolt. And I also, as you see, I've pulled this thermostat all the way towards me, all the hoses, so I can give better clearance to the AC compressor. There's this like a little metal AC line that goes into the compressor, which is right here. It's in the way. If I move that out of the way, it'll help a lot. Undone this clip here that holds this metal line in place. So I just came here with a screwdriver and just pried it open. This came off. Let's see if I can remove it. Okay. So this is loose now. I'm gonna try and move this out of the way completely. As you can see, it's rubbing against the AC compressor. Okay, so I moved this line here. So when you're moving this line away, make sure you don't cut these wires here, the yellow, blue, red. Okay, so here it is. Yeah, once I moved this line, it was much easier to pull it out. You can see in the middle the pieces, how you broke off. See, it's in place. And this is what the problem is, why the AC is not working. So the next step is installing the new compressor, and then we'll work our way backwards. We're going to first thread the bottom bolt through here, and then we're going to putting the AC compressor inside and lightly screw in the bolt on the bottom just so it stays in place, so sort of. At the same time, maybe before or after, what I'm going to do, I had a lot of trouble disconnecting the coolant hose that goes to the thermostat from the rear. So the one on the front, which is on this side, front of the engine, that one has a clip. You pull on the clip and you pull it out. It's pretty easy. It's also like very easy to access. But the one actually that I had, which was really hard to get to, was the one that's behind the thermostat. That one, I'm not sure if I can show you here. It's like a U-shaped hose that goes behind the thermostat. So this hose right here, with a clamp that's loosened, that one goes in the back of the thermostat. And then we'll try to put that in before we put in the compressor. I think once I put the compressor in there, it'll be very difficult to put that hose back on. Okay, so I think I got it in place. You basically took a little bit of wrestling with the AC compressor, and make sure when you're pulling it in not to force it too much, because you have to be careful of these wires so you don't strip them. I already stripped like maybe the coating around it, like the rubber, like a sleeve, but I'll just use some electrical tape to cover it and just for more protection. Now that I have put the AC compressor in, and remember I did slide in the bolt. Otherwise, if you put the compressor in there, then you're trying to put in the bolt, it'll be very difficult because the thermostat is still sort of in a way to get bolt through there, so do it beforehand. And I'm now going to slightly tighten this bolt right here, and then I'm gonna make sure all the hoses connected to the thermostat. Before we go any further, make sure we connect that wire plug to the thermostat and all these hoses, and then we can work our way putting all the bolts and tightening them, and then work our way up. One thing that will help me put on those bolts for the thermostat is I bought at Home Depot the 10mm ratcheting wrench. So it'll be much easier to kind of get in tight spaces. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and screw in that bolt lightly, and then we'll work on the other stuff. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but I got the bolt lightly threaded with my fingers. Now I'm just going to tighten it a little bit with a wrench, with the E14 wrench. I'm not sure if you can see, it's very tight. Just going to tighten it a little bit because we have to put in those two bolts as well. The next thing is I need to make sure that the hose in the back of the thermostat is connected. I think it's connected. I just have to put the clamp on, and it's kind of hard to get to. I went ahead and attached this wire to the thermostat here, right here. To gonna get a better access to it, just gonna pull this thermostat housing out and slid this connector inside. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do and make sure is that the hose in the back of the thermostat is connected, and then I'm going to fasten the clamp around it. Also make sure not to tighten the clamp too much because this is plastic. You just want to make sure it's snug. Using a 1/4-inch ratchet, maybe like a 9-inch extension, 6mm socket from the passenger side wheel. And if you look next to this tie rod right here, right along here, it's right there. You just want to make sure it's snug. So the next thing I'll do is tighten this compressor in place. Let me see if I can find it. I want to tighten this first, make sure it's snug there. Just make sure it's tight. I don't want to strip it because this is aluminum bolt. Next step is to put in those two 10mm bolts that hold the thermostat in, and then we'll attach this hose. And right here, this one has a little metal clamp on top. This one goes to the thermostat in the front. Just gonna ahead and tighten it. So this is the bolt that I'm talking about right here. The one with the blue die on top of it. And the top one I can tighten later. Okay, maybe I can just tighten a little bit with the E14 ratcheting wrench. I can probably do this from the top, but since I'm down here, might as well try it. I'll tighten it a little bit, just so it holds the thing in place. And then I'll tighten it more later. So I'm gonna tighten this bottom one a little more just to make sure it's tight enough. The reason why I want to tighten the top one, just so it's seated properly, so that when I'm tightening the bottom one, it goes in a little smoother. Okay, so we have all the 3 bolts tightened right there. that one. Okay, so that bolt is like right. This is the compressor, this is the front of it here, and it's the back, it's underneath here. So for that one I used a 3/8 ratchet with the E14 socket. Basically estimated, kind of torqued them down by hand. Don't have a torque wrench that can get in there. I'm going to remove these plugs here. There's one here, on the bottom. This I think like a 6mm Allen key to remove this little protective cover, and then we'll slide these in there. This one goes here, and the metal one here that I put a glove on top of it, gonna protect it from debris falling inside. That one's gonna go over here. Let me actually connect this one first, since it's probably the hardest one to get in there. This one actually is more flexible. Before we do any of that, what I'll do is I'm going to fasten that thermostat with just 2 10mm bolts. Add those 2 bolts in there, and then we'll connect this hose and another hose, I believe we disconnected. Then we'll attach those AC lines and go from there. So to get these 2 bolts fastened to the thermostat, so it holds the thermostat in place, I'm going to use a 10mm ratcheting wrench. So the reason why I have the duct tape on the bottom is because there's no way for me to really get my finger underneath on the bolt so it doesn't come out. Here we have the thermostat. First I'm going to do the one furthest away because it's the hardest. Okay, so I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna show you the end product. Long story short, I'm actually using a 10mm regular wrench. This one actually has a little curve to it, and it works really nice because I can just go like this and do a little by little. So I've finished fastening those bolts to the thermostat that holds it in place, and it was actually easier than I thought. Actually, when I realized what made it hard to use that ratcheting wrench in the beginning, because I had a tape on the bottom, kind of restricted the wrench to kind of for the mechanism to move. So I removed it and I put a screw inside the wrench, and actually kind of held it in place because it had a little washer around it. Basically, the ratcheting wrench does work in this case really well. I highly recommend it if you're doing this kind of job. And the next thing actually is to connect this hose, which goes here, but we have to release the clip first and then press it in. I've just now attached the hose. Basically, when you're putting it in, you can only go in one way. It has this little like a tab, so you can just slide in. Make sure it's all the way in, and then there's a clip on the top, which I can actually just press down from here, and which is like a safety pin. We'll install those AC lines, but first we'll need to remove these rubber, I guess, protectors, seals, and that's where the lines will go in place. This one right here will go here once we remove this, and the other one, this one right here, which has a glove on it right now, will go here. And right now I'm going to remove these little safety things here. Okay, so I got this line installed. Still need to bolt it down. And this compressor comes with those 6mm Allen bolts. They hold this line in place. Same with this one. This one was a little tricky to maneuver back to its position because this is a solid metal line, maybe aluminum line. And so when you're doing this, make sure that this line, again here, this goes to the compressor that I just now installed, goes under this crank pulley. And also make sure not to break this clip. This is actually where it's supposed to go. You put it in here, you just kind of press this in, like so. Once it's aligned how it's supposed to be, then here it'll fit much nicer. So right now I'm going to remove this thing right here, and then we're just going to slide this one in there, like so. This thing right here is not supposed to have this pin on this thing. At least I don't think so, because every other one I saw online actually had a pin on the compressor, which this one does, and then the pin goes inside here. So I had to order a new hose or line that goes from the condenser to the compressor. Here's the new line, and this one has the hole. And I tried to pry it out with pliers. It just didn't work. This one's already loose, of course, the one that goes to the compressor, and that one that goes to condenser is right there, and it's a 6mm bit or key. And so to get better access to that, we're going to just remove this part right here. There's already, you just press these two tabs here, pop it up, and then there's this little, I think 10mm bolt. You just unscrew it, and then we're going to just lift this up. It comes out really easily, like that, one piece. And I'm going to put this nut back on here so we don't lose it. I've also removed this bolt here. This one has a washer. Just remember, this is what it looks like. And I believe it's the same bolt, same size as the one actually that goes to the other side of the line in the compressor. I had trouble actually removing this line here. It does wiggle, so I think it just caught on the rubber gasket. It's that's what kind of keeps it from just sliding out easily. Okay, so I got this hose out pretty easily. As I was worried earlier, this part here is supposed to be without this pin, so I'm guessing it just got glued to this side instead of actually being left on the condenser. So what I'm going to try and do and trying to punch it out, because it has a hole on the other side here, and see if I can put, you reuse it and put it back in the condenser, and then slide this back in there. I'm going to use the table vise, so like this, make sure it's tight. So we were able to punch this out pretty easily. I used this solid punch. It had a small enough tip to where it actually would come to this hole. And I used a rubber hammer, and just like maybe a few punches, it just came out. Now we're going to try and fit this back in here where originally it's supposed to go. Inserted the hose in there. And this pin, I wasn't able to get in there. Another reason, actually, this one has a hole at the end. I thought maybe like if I push this in and tighten it, the pin will be pushed back in on the other side. But I just put in there just kind of to position everything together. Then I'll tighten it with this bolt here. Again, 6mm Allen. And tighten this. And then I'll use a ratchet with a 6mm. Okay, should be tightened up, I believe. And I feel that pin has seated inside, but I'm not sure. Okay, it was sticking out, but now it's not anymore. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. Finally, we're on to this part right here, where we're going to remove this, like a protective cap right here, which also has a 6mm thing, and we're just going to reuse that. I'm just gonna undo this bolt here, screw, and then we're going to just pull on that yellow thing, plastic cover, and then we're going to insert this part, and this is the pin I was telling you about. It's the same as on this side, at least how it's supposed to be. And so we're just going to slide back this in here, and now I'm going to put this back here. Now we're going to just tighten this down. Okay, it's back in there, it's fastened down. So make sure this one here is tightened down, which I believe it is. Yeah, I think it's fine. You don't want to tighten too much, because that's aluminum and maybe you can just shift the bolt. So we're gonna put this back here. This is very easy. You remove this nut first here, right here. The way you do this one has a little tab here, and that tab goes into this hole here, and that's how you align it and it doesn't move. You just put the nut back on there. I'm going to use a 10mm socket. I'm going to install this guy right here, the coolant reservoir. So these two have to align here. There's like 10mm bolts, and then we have to connect this electrical plug onto here on the bottom of the tank. I don't know if you remember, this hose right here goes onto here, which comes across the radiator fan. Okay, so the hose is back in there installed. Make sure when you install it, it's all the way inside. Then you press down on this clamp here on the pin and try to wiggle out, see if it moves. If it's secure, then you're good. We're going to position this. Okay, now it's seated, and this goes here. So, oops.
This one goes here also. Just squeeze these two sides where it has like there is little ribbed. You press it and then you slide in there. Okay, both of these are secure. Tight enough. There we go. Okay. This should be good. Okay, so this is the following day after I have glued this using the JB Weld for plastic. What I did actually, I squeezed a little bit of it and I mixed it together because this one has like two different things in each one of these tubes. Then you apply it on whatever you want to glue. And you have to hold it for maybe about 50 minutes for it to kind of harden. Then you can probably let go. So here we have the fan belt. This is the Continental brand. There are two different kinds at AutoZone, but this is supposed to be the one that has a 3-year warranty and it's supposed to be better quality, 4060785. And we have to make sure that it's on the correct way. Okay, so the belt is on. And luckily I took the video before when I took it off. It made it much easier. Yeah, so this is the process again. I guess how the belt's supposed to go on. So the belt goes over top of the alternator pulley. So from this tensioner pulley, it goes down to the alternator, comes around it, goes over the top, comes around the alternator pulley, then comes around this way underneath, then goes this way. I guess this is the water pump, and it comes around it, goes all the way to the bottom around this crank pulley, and then comes around the tensioner and back to the AC compressor. And so now we can go ahead and install the fan. Okay, so I got the fan inside. One thing I was concerned about was this thing we glued, which is right there. It doesn't clip on like it used to, but it's pretty snug. On this side, when you come on the passenger side, when you're looking forward, there's this thing here, this plastic thing, like a tube that kind of holds this wire in place. And there's like a half circle on the fan where this plastic thing goes. So make sure you have this position correctly. So this one actually goes into this little clip here. That one goes in there, fine. If you go on the bottom, it also seems to align here just okay. It aligns here fine. Yeah, there's only one clip up there. That's the one that kind of has a little tab that we glued. Yeah, so I think this is fine. And this one here is, if you remember, goes into here, like so. Then you turn it, it locks into place. Then you place this wire here on top. Make sure it also clicks. You may have to use a screwdriver to kind of move this tab. And we don't, you just have to push it in harder. Make sure you don't squeeze any wires here. Make sure all the wires are free and loose. And then this part here goes onto here, but we'll connect this last because we have to kind of figure out how to screw that oil cooler in. I think it's supposed to be clipped onto something, or I'm not sure why it's not aligning. Okay. All right, look on the bottom and figure this out. Okay, so we got this aligned with the hole. It was pretty easy to kind of push it in there a little bit. And then we use a T20, just like so. So here we have a T20 also. We're supposed to screw in. This one's a little rusty, so I'm gonna put my camera down and screw it in there. I don't know if you remember, but we unhooked this little piece here. It goes onto here. Just push it in there. This kind of holds the wire in place. Push it in there. Supposed to guide this hose here first this way. Make sure it hooks onto here. Just push it in there like so. Then gonna come around here. Do the same thing here as well. Just push it in. And now we're going to plug this in here like so. Make sure it's connected. And now we connect this part here. We just slide it in here, push it in there, make sure it's all the way, and push this clip down. And the next thing is we're gonna put this here that we just took off a moment ago. And first I'm going to remove this bolt here. It's a 10mm nut that holds this thing in place. So, and there's a little tab right here, the metal tab goes into this little hole just so it stays in place. Now we're going to put this nut on top of here. Okay, just kind of goes onto here, and just make sure you press these two tabs slide in here. We can just press it there so it clicks. And now we're going to use this to tighten it. Here we are. This goes in here. Still have that little tag on. I have to remove that. I think it's good. I guess the only thing now to do is to add a coolant and then add that snorkel, which is right there. This is a BMW coolant right here. For this one, it's a 1 gallon. We have to add 1 part coolant, 1 part distilled water. 5 quarts antifreeze, 5 quarts water. So 5 quarts basically is just 1 gallon. And so yeah, I'm going to dump this whole thing into the coolant reservoir. Then I'll dump 1 gallon of distilled water. Now that we have the cap off, we're going to open this screw here just a little bit. Like that, I'm going to set it aside. And when you're doing this, make sure all the hoses are connected and also make sure you have that drain plug installed. Okay, so I added the whole bottle of coolant and now we're going to add water. So we can do this one-handed. There we go. I'm gonna wait for it to kind of settle down. I'm going to set my phone down now until I finish this. I'll show you how to have this circulate in your system. One thing that I would do differently, if I had to do it again, is that I would pre-mix the water and the coolant in a separate container, because you may not actually be able to fill all of it out, both gallons of coolant and water, because there may be some coolant left over. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the trunk and connect the battery. Then we're going to just press the ignition, press the start button without pressing the brake at all. And then we're going to set this up to the highest temperature, the heat. Make sure it's only on 1 bar. And you're going to press the gas pedal for 10 seconds. Let go. The thing should start circulating. There we go. This will go on for maybe about 12 minutes. You may drain your battery, so I'm going to turn the lights off. So I'm going to use this. This also I found on Amazon. This is by Coupe battery repair charger or tender. Since this whole procedure actually is being powered by the battery, since we have the car off. Yeah, so let me go ahead and hook this up to here while this is going through its cycle. So we have the battery charger hooked up here to the positive terminal, and now the negative, just the ground. Let's see, mode, 12 volt car. Now we have 14.7 volts and it's charging it. I feel like it's a little more than it should be, but yeah, we'll leave it at this, just so the battery doesn't drain. The whole thing was a little quiet for the last 5 minutes, so I think it's done. And now we're going to turn the ignition off, remove this also. Now we're going to check the level of the coolant. We're going to open this slowly. Okay, we can add a little bit more. We're also going to open that screw here, just so we can get all the air out of the system. See the bubbles coming out of here. I have this much, so it's not bad. So we're now going to close this off, put a cap back on. Then we're going to start the car and watch for the temperature, make sure it doesn't overheat. Then we'll see if we have to run this whole process again by having the water pump cycle the coolant through the system. Start it right up. I'm going to let the car idle for maybe about 5 minutes, and then we'll turn the car off. We'll check the coolant level again. Okay, so now we're going to put that snorkel back in there. I already checked the fluid, coolant, it's full. Let the car on maybe for about 10 minutes. Didn't overheat at all. Grab these two T20 or T25 screws. Goes in like this. This in place, and we just have to go in here. Actually went in there pretty easily. One screw goes here, one here, and this is a T20. There should be 2 of them. Here we have this plastic shield, splash guard, and here we have those 8mm screws. Okay, so I put this plastic cover on. So yeah, so everything's back together. All we have to do is drive the car off these ramps. Then I'll drive the car around the block a little bit and see if the temperature changes at all or if it starts to overheat. Then we'll be set to go to take the car to the mechanic, where I had them remove all the freon from the system, and I have them recharge that system again. So one more thing before I forget, make sure you like this video if you found it helpful. I hope you did. And also subscribe to my channel. I don't know if you guys saw my other video, which is of my other car, my hobby, which is a 1971 Volkswagen Super Beetle. And I already made one video of that, and I should have much more videos on that car as well, of my journey, you know, getting the car roadworthy. And I still have some things to do. The important thing is the car is running. It drives. Right now I have it in storage because of until the weather gets better, and I'll be able to bring it back in the garage and do some tuning to it. Maybe just basic like maintenance, adjust the valves, change the tires. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, like this video, subscribe, and I'll have more content for you. And if you have any comments, any suggestions for me, feel free to let me know. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.